Hello, everyone. Today I had the pleasure of speaking with Jared Harrison, who is a local comedian here in Dothan, Alabama. Now, he had recently just started doing stand up comedy here in this local area at local clubs and working on his material then, but eventually was asked to open for Jordan Stanley, who I spoke to earlier on this podcast and had finally been able to have her headline at the local Dothan Opera House. Anyway, Jared and I had a great time talking about the humor of life, how it's a divine requirement that we not take ourselves too seriously. So he gives us a lot of material to keep our sense of humor, things that are given to us by our family and the blessing that we have around us, but and just a way of looking at life the right way, so that we are enjoying this life that God gives us. Anyway, we had a wonderful conversation. I hope you'll join us for this journey. So, hey, thank you very much for coming and talking to me.
No, thank you.
We had a great time the other night.
We did.
At the open mic night. And so what was the name of that coffee shop again?
So Mural City. Jordan Stanley is trying to host an open mic event there once a month.
Okay.
And then there's another local comedian, Jordan Downing. Also
he was there that night.
He was there that night as well. And so he had the Jehovah's Witness on Adderall joke. So it killed. But Jordan just recently moved back to Dothan, and he's trying to do an open mic once a month at the Thirsty Pig.
Okay.
And so we're getting some events.
That's what my wife asked me. She goes, because I did 5 minutes at the Mural City Coffee, and she went, well, no. So it was two nights. It was the following night.
Right.
We were having our anniversary dinner at the Rawls, which is over in Enterprise.
Sure.
And it's a famous establishment.
It is.
And she's from the Philippines, so I had to explain to her what a cat house is. Like, this isn't a crazy old lady with a bunch of cats. Right. Okay. So when we say something's an old cat house, this is entirely different connotation altogether.
Okay.
And so the Rawls has that. That's what makes it distinguished. Like, honey, no. This is what we mean by that. But anyway, so we're sitting at dinner, and she saw me having a distant look in my eyes for just a second. And she just stopped, put her fork down. She said, "Are you planning your next set?"
I get that.
I was like,
I get that.
No. Why? What do you think? She goes, "You are. I can see your wheels turning." I'm like, yeah, but it was fun. That was that was fun doing that.
I just started stand up probably February, March.
Really?
This year.
I would not believe that. When you opened for Jordan, I thought it was awesome.
Well,
you killed.
I appreciate that. I have had a past that I've gotten up in front of people and spoken. My dad was a minister. I was on stage at 3 years old singing. So being around people and being up in front of people, that's not my biggest hurdle. I think actually stand-up comedy is probably a lot easier than getting up what you do on a weekly basis. And so there's not as much pressure, you're just, you're trying to get a laugh out of people of a funny premise or what you think of. I mean, if you boil comedy down, it's people that are complaining about what kind of goes on in their life. Like, they make an observation, then they complain about it or try to make it humorous. And so that's kind of been my angle on it. I love to write. I've written for, my whole life. And so just to take 15, 20 minutes of, hey, what's going on around me? Like, what's popular? What can I kind of turn into? I'm having conversations with my wife about marriage and being like, hey, can I tell this joke? Like, is this safe? I didn't think I'd be doing that at 49 years old, but here I am.
Well, no, I do. You gotta make sure that you run everything by them. And this is there's the old principle of Silverman illustrations that if you're going to use your family, you got to pay them off.
Absolutely.
So you got to have the compensation system well established now, or a permission system. Do you mind if I use the story?
For sure.
Because she's from the Philippines, and I went there to visit her family, ask for their parents' permission. So I've been there twice now, and I got a lot of material.
I bet.
It doesn't help because I am not camouflage. I do not blend into that society because I'm a foot taller than the rest of the population. And so we go through the mall and I just see the sea of heads out ahead of me.
And you're well seen.
Oh, right. Exactly right. She's like, I don't want to walk. That's what she said. I don't want to walk next to you. I look like a mail order bride next to this guy, this creepy white Westerner that's walking along with the Filipino. You know, she's this high-powered accountant. She's like, no, I look like someone you found in a magazine. And so anyway, but that we get a lot of material from that. And so I'm constantly have to saying, you know, are you okay if I use this and this, whatever? She's like, yeah, of course, because whatever you thought was ridiculous, we thought you were ridiculous too. So
sure,
it's a fair trade. But you know, you were saying you found it, you know, stand up easier. I thought it was much more difficult. Well,
I said no. I mean, I can see that.
From, I'll tell you why. Because you know, I have my Baptist background,
sure,
and then now I'm in an Anglican tradition, and those are different preaching styles.
Absolutely,
right? So, in the Baptist background, the sermon is the apex of your service. Okay. So everything's building up to that. Everything is leading up to your special, your Sister Mabel's special music during the offering, you know, all your announcements, everything that you're doing is leading up to the sermon, which is going to have, like, it's typically an altar call. I call it the apex rite. In anthropology terms, I'm like mapping the ritual here. It's like everything's preparatory rites until your apex rite. Right. And your apex rite is the altar call, right? Sure. But in liturgical settings, Catholic, Roman Catholic, Orthodox, Anglican, the apex rite is communion.
Okay.
So everything is just leading up to that, which means that in my former setting, your sermon is the thing that everything's leading up to. If you give less than a 30-minute sermon, people do not get their money's worth. And you're expected to gesticulate wildly while pacing back and forth across the stage.
Sure.
And my old prof used to say, "What are you doing, man? Why are you standing there in one spot?" And I'm like, "Sorry, man. You introverts you're killing them." But that's what I used to. And you pace your sermon based upon how you walk back and forth across the stage. And I had that background. You come to the Anglican sermon, now immediately you're under these mentors that are going, "What are you doing? It's not all about you." Geez, I'm sorry. And like, no. Yeah. That was 15 minutes. That was a little long. So you're making it, you know, and you're starting to draw more attention to yourself.
That's definitely a change in mentality.
Oh my gosh.
I was raised Baptist. My father was a Southern Baptist minister.
Yeah.
When I was 19, I did what any sheltered Baptist kid would do. And I joined a Pentecostal Bible college, and it could have borderlined on a cult. So I have
you need those though in your life
that as well. Yeah. And so, yeah, going from Baptist to Pentecostal, and, you know, then the Assemblies of God, I was with them for several years and licensed with them, but now at a non-denominational church, and still have a great relationship. With,
my background is Baptocostal, is the way I described that.
Similar,
right.
Very similar on mine.
Right. So I can go either way. I mean, I can you know, be very animated. I can sit judgingly. I can be in the back of the room, and I've been invited to, like, in previously in inner city Black churches as well. Sure. They're like, I think he'll go ahead and work here. Never mind his looks. Never mind. He just looks kind of, you know, he's very white, but he works. And so,
sure.
So, but no, it's reason why stand-up was a little bit more difficult because, well, I wasn't intending to do a bit that night.
Sure.
It was the absolute villainous pressure that came from Jordan Stanley in the moment. She's a Bond villain. She really should walk. She's like, "Father, do you think you're gonna sign up here?"
Right.
And so I had to think, okay, what story would work? Oh my gosh! And then, you know, so I just stepped in. But now I'm already thinking about what would be a better, you know, series. What would be a better moment for that? That's why my wife says, she says, "You're planning your next set, aren't you?" Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you started in February. What was your first foray into that?
I went to Panama City.
Okay.
So they have weekly open mics. Panama City has a very large, like, comedy kind of culture.
Really?
There's open mics on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, typically one or two comedy shows on the weekend. There's several guys down there that do shows. And so Clay Dempsey, actually, he asked me when he booked Jordan's show, he was like, "Have you ever thought about doing stand-up?" And I was like, "I've thought about it." I mean, I've been a comedy fan kind of my entire life.
Right.
Even with my dad being a pastor, like, we didn't have any rock music in the house. Like, it was
no.
It was mainly country, and then we had like a selection of comedy albums. And so it was Jerry Clower, Bill Cosby, those late 70s, early 80s. We had them on 8-track record and cassette. And so we had a huge console that had 8-track player, the record. And I remember going in there and, listening to the records and just falling in love with like people that could tell stories. And Jerry Clower is,
master storyteller.
Absolutely. Probably one of the best that's ever done it. And kind of solidified that Southern humor, if it makes sense, of the way he looks at life and having, family that could entertain for months and not even try, And so I've always said, if you can't look around your family and find the crazy one, you probably are the crazy one.
You're that one. That's exactly right.
Yeah, you are the one.
The common denominator in your inability to see it is you.
It's always been one of those things that, I do, like even in college, love to write, love to kind of get pen to paper and just ideas down. And with comedy, it's like you can take the best pieces and you can move them around and see what's going to work. And that's the best thing about open mics is you can try new things.
You can shop your material that way. Yeah.
You can, and kind of see what's going to work, what's going to eventually develop into, like, I know like my goals right now is try to get 20 minutes solid.
Okay.
And so, it's going to take some work.
Right.
I've got good, 5-minute bits. I've got good 3 minutes, and it's just seeing kind of what goes together and what paints a full picture of kind of what I'm going for.
I think that many sometimes it's underappreciated how much of a craft that is.
It is
of making you have your ideas and you know that they work, but they need honing, they need timing, they need it goes from do you pause after that punchline to kind of like you raise an eyebrow and let people kind of catch up to you, or do you go straight for it? I mean, that's all these things are the art of interacting with an audience. That is again, I think that many don't appreciate. One of the things, my sermons here are scripted.
Okay.
So I get a chance to kind of like write out the manuscript
for sure
beforehand. And so it's a very different type of speaking. And so that's why, so that open mic, I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. I'm not reading off of something, because you can write a joke into the midst of your manuscript.
Sure.
But in that instance, you're like, no. What's the timing of that? What's the interaction with the audience? Are you reading the room? And the specific setting too, because I mean, here in Dothan at the open mic at Mural City Coffee, that's all. Everyone needs to have a clean set.
It is, yeah. So it's said up front. Hey, this is clean comedy, because it is an open business. Families come in there. They bring their kids.
Right.
I know my wife was out of town Friday night. I brought all 3 of my kids with me. So, I mean, you do want to have, and at the Thirsty Pig, it's a bar setting. It's outside. So it's more PG-13. Like there's, a little bit looser material.
I've never been there. I didn't see whole families.
It's, well, I mean, there's families there too.
Right.
You really kind of have to read the room.
Yeah.
And see what your audience is and how that goes. And
so you started in Panama City.
I did.
Yeah. Jordan told me that was not a clean comedy setting.
It is not a clean comedy setting. So the first night I ever went, the only seats that were available was right down front. You never want to sit like up front at a comedy show, because you are going to get hounded. And there were comedians that were there that was doing kind of crowd work. I got called racist twice. I mean, I had a full beard, plaid shirt on, baseball cap.
You got the Confederate general look going on, man.
I was told, that I was a January 6th. It was bizarre. But I mean, there's all kinds down there.
Oh, we can't go to anything like that, because how's the tall white boy next to the short Filipino gonna make out there?
Right.
No. You're got a target on your back. Yeah.
So you're kind of thrown into the fire, especially on certain like open mics. And I went and tried one at Pier Park. I think it was at the Angry Tuna. And I bombed. Like, it was terrible. Like, my whole set. It was the only people that were left in the restaurant by the time I got up was a table full of like 18 to 21-year-olds from Clemson. Like, they were all fraternity brothers, and they were down there. And all I kept thinking in the back of my mind is my 18-year-old going, Dad, you just write jokes for old people. And I was like, this is confirming that for sure. Because, and I told him, I was like, but like, that's where I'm at. So, like, you have to understand.
They're like booking you on the Alaska cruise next.
Yeah, no, right.
That's right. So you're going to play well among the the senior citizen crowd. Just don't step on any air hoses. You'll be good.
Well, if I was trying to write material when I was 19 in a fraternity, it probably would have been much different material than what I'm trying to write now. Being a dad, for being married 25 years, and so yeah.
Oh yeah, well,
changes the perspective a little bit. So.
Well, and you have to work that fine line, because it's the material comes from the things you see all day, but those people who watch your set going, I didn't know that was going to come up in your bit.
Oh, for sure,
yeah,
for sure. Well, there was, because even open it up at the Opera House. With the way that I put down notes and highlights and write and what I'm going with, I can't from beginning to end tell my wife, okay, this is everything that I'm going to say. Right. So there were some things that I said that she was like, and I had a bit that was, modern intimacy on a Tuesday night at our house is, hey, where are the Tums chews at? And so when she said, when I said what modern intimacy looks like at our house, she said, I froze in the seat because I had no idea what was about to come out of your mouth. And that's true. She didn't know because I had not told her that. Yeah. So there's a little bit of that gets played into it. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and so hopefully they get a chance to kind of, it's not necessarily a review process, but nevertheless, they do have some idea of going, yeah, I trust you.
It is
not to step into an area, because probably everyone's related to someone who's doing stand-up themselves. They need to have some thick skin too. Maybe, but
no, I agree with that. Like, and I've even told stories about my kids and stuff like that. I would never do anything like super embarrassing or talking down to people. Right. And I do run a clean set. Like I don't. I don't fault anybody that doesn't do that. I'm a huge comedy fan. Like, I listen to anything from Kill Tony to, Christian comics. And I'm of the belief that even with comedy that I don't like, there's an audience for it. It just may not be for me, but that's the same with music or movies, or you have to find what you relate to and what you appreciate.
Well, because the comedians are, a lot of people don't realize the necessity of it. The cultural necessity of comedy is that pressure relief valve to laugh at absurdities.
Sure.
And a great deal of those absurdities are mine, and so the person who's really upset doesn't want their absurdities to be called absurdities, and they certainly don't want anyone laughing at them. For me, I just learned years ago that any area in which I start to develop a sense of thin skin, it just seems as though God says, "Oh, this will not do at all."
Yeah.
There's
a lesson to be learned.
Oh, I know. I have to be in on the joke. Otherwise you're just not going to last. And I mean, just about anything from falling or tripping over your own laces in the parking lot to whatever embarrassing situation comes up. And you're like, that was I'm ridiculous.
Right.
And I think a lot of people like to talk about race relations and things like this in our society and whatever. And I always say, well, a lot of our ills or a lot of our societal problems stem less from the color of skin to the thickness of it.
Sure.
And so your ability to kind of either point out absurdities, laugh along with it, or laugh at it sometimes.
For sure.
I really enjoyed studying all the comedy in the Bible.
Oh.
There's so much of it, so much where something is pointed out, the absurdity of something is pointed out in a way that it calls for the reader to be giggling while they're reading through something that's supposedly, a serious
Right.
prophetic passage.
For sure.
But yet God's pointing out how absurd a thing is. And you're supposed to either be pointing and laughing, or you're supposed to realize, or Jesus' parable of like, let's walk up and get that, sawdust out of your eye while I get this plank sticking out of mine. You're supposed to be realizing, oh, I'm the absurd thing.
Sure.
And so the necessity of comedy has to be affirmed. Even among the fuddy-duddies, they're like, stroking their chins. I don't know. That seems like, don't make light of such things. Like, dude, come on, get over yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of that, I think in some aspects, like a lot of religion wants to go, this is a very serious thing.
Yeah, right.
When at the end of the day, like, God, the Lord gives us joy. Like,
the Lord exactly.
He can, I'm sure, find humor in definitely me, trying to do what I'm going to, it doesn't always have to be so serious.
Right. No. Oh, no. I mean, and for me, I do tend to see a lot of that in my arena. And so, like, I was talking to someone the other day, every now and then something will come out and you'll realize, oh, I'll hold on to that one for maybe, another opportunity at open mic night later. But someone was asking about a house blessing, and you're like, okay, so Father, could you come over? Could you do a house blessing? And there's a whole procedure,
sure,
and a lot of rites and rituals related to blessing a house, right? And you're thinking, okay, how do you prepare for this? And my big worry is always that when you go to someone's house, make sure that you use the restroom well in advance before you go there. Because if you go there and your stomachs are gurgling, you realize, no, I'm here to expel evil spirits, not bring any of them.
True.
You don't want, because right. You don't want to be like, before we do this holy thing, where is your throne so I can be holding on to this thing going, the power of Christ compels you. That is not how you're going to bless the home, right?
Exactly.
Because, that's not where you want to go. And so because people are going to like, he cursed our home. It had the opposite effect. But no, I get it. But so for yourself, you're that background of kind of seeing, you have some of the religious background, family, sure. Offers a lot of material.
They do.
And so, and that's created some momentum. I mean, you opened for Jordan Stanley. What's next?
Just really working open mics and seeing what type of events that we could get in Dothan that focus on more local comedy, because within an hour and a half drive of Dothan, like, there's a ton of comics that are going up, open mics, doing features on weekends and things like that. So just seeing what Dothan can support, like start small and then kind of move up from there. But comedy has kind of been a focus, especially, downtown.
Right.
Kevin Hart, Bert Kreischer has come in. They've got some great shows coming up. Matty Matthews is going to be in town. And so, like, there are events that I think make people understand, hey, comedy really is an art, and there are local people that do that. And to have events like open mics kind of open up more, can we do 100-seat comedy show somewhere and sell tickets for that? And so that's my goal, just to see kind of what happens in the next 6 months. I mean, we went from 5 people signing up for the first open mic at Mural City to 11. And so that's a huge jump, and we had a ton of people there on a Friday night.
That was a packed house.
Very impressive.
That was a packed house. I was very impressed with that. That was cool
for sure.
So the biggest applause I got though was my ability to reconnect the microphone, and so
you did that. I mean, just you didn't even think about it.
I'll be working on that set for a while to try to get that honed down.
Yeah.
But now, so obviously that's not your day job. Tell me, I would like to know a little bit more about how the life that kind of fits this in around it.
So I've been in sales I got my first sales job at 19.
Okay.
So I haven't been in sales my entire career. I was an office manager here in town at a large church for several years. But mostly, like, for the last 10 years, kind of been out on the road doing sales. Currently, I'm in food service. So
Okay.
I get to go into restaurants, talk to chefs.
Oh, nice.
Front of house, general managers. And I love to cook as well. And so it kind of, I guess, I mean, everybody says they're a foodie these days. We all eat. So
I'm not. Oh, no. No, that's going into my next bit.
That's it. Yes.
Because I mean, I have the palate of a 12-year-old, and I did for a long time. And then, just had zero, just basic taste. We were kicked out of KBC for ordering my chicken nuggets well done. And so that's, very, very basic taste. I had a professor who tried to convert me one time. He's like, you're hopeless. And then somewhere along the line, I just jumped from there, completely bypassed any period of life when I would actually have some taste, and jumped straight into that moment where all of my food is evaluated based upon how it'll affect my visit to the little room.
Okay.
And so I'm in that 50s area now where all food is evaluated based upon its digestibility.
Okay.
And so, which is an old person thing to do. I mean, you really are, I'm sympathetic to those.
Sure.
I'm sympathetic to those that crowd that would all go to Cracker Barrel and just kind of walk the menu and just kind of have some anxiety about this. Oh, how's this gonna work? There might be some demons in the house later. So you don't want to be, I'm careful about that. But as a result, I'm always fascinated by people who have this ability to cook, entertain, and, have, people that they can host, really.
So I grew up in a home where, I grew up in a small town. So we didn't go out to eat a lot. My mom cooked pretty much every meal, like every Saturday. We were at my grandparents' house, which was like right through the field to our house, and there was a full table, and so all my aunts, uncles, cousins would come in on a Saturday, and we would all sit down and eat lunch. And so food has always been
nice.
Like just a connection point, like for just regular old Southern cooking type thing.
Right.
And I remember, like, as I grew up, like, asking my mom, like, hey, how do you make this? And then getting the answers of, well, you just add a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I was very frustrated with that.
Right.
And so I could follow directions on a box. Like, I could cook anything on a box.
Right.
But in my 40s and really starting kind of around COVID, when you couldn't get out, there wasn't much of the grocery store. I started cooking and grilling and smoking. And I've said, like, when you turn 40, you have two choices. You can either watch World War II documentaries or learn how to smoke meat. I learned how to smoke meat. And so that's kind of been the last 6 years of my life or so. And I love doing it. Like, I love entertaining. I love having people over and cooking for them and that type of stuff. But I get it now. Like, I can put something on a grill, and I mean, I don't have patience for anything. I don't like to hunt because when I'm sitting in the woods, I'm thinking about everything else that I could be doing. But I mean, I'll put a pork butt on a grill and let it cook for 12 hours.
Really? Wow.
And sit and check it and spritz it and temp check and all of that. And it's just, but I get it now. Like, when I'm cooking, like, it's not you got to exactly measure. It's just, hey, put it in there until it feels right. And so I can understand that, kind of the older that I get. And so having a job that is kind of in that lane of being able to talk food with chefs and general managers in front of houses, I've been very blessed. Like, I was talking to my boss, I don't know, 6 months ago, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm in the job today that I prayed for 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
You know, like, I was in a job.
Right.
Like, it was paying the bills. Like, but it was, I said that I sold weapons of mass destruction. It was insecticides. Just for,
that's
little
right.
bugs.
Right.
And so it's well needed in the South.
Of course.
It sells everywhere, but it was just, hey, would you like to buy some bug spray? I mean, you can't really nuance that very much like you can a portfolio with food. And
that's right.
These are the things that you can make with food. Like, I have a sales meeting tomorrow. I'm going home tonight doing 2 different dips, some salsa, like making it for the sales reps to be able to try. And hey, this is what you can do with our ingredients.
Right.
And so that really kind of feeds my soul to
of course.
be able to get in
Absolutely.
the kitchen and put something together and it all work out. So
no, for me, I years ago, I started trying to do things in the kitchen that would push my abilities.
Sure.
Like I said, you have no palate at all. You overcook the chicken nuggets. Well, they're just perfect for me. But then I started to try to cook, more things, for, my kids. And then later on, for my wife, and like trying to, test myself a little bit more. And recently I finally conquered one of the elusive goals I had, and that was to make bread.
Okay.
And I'd like, okay. And it wound up edible. And I can tell you that for my satisfaction that came out of that was lottery level joy, because the fact that I baked something and then it was considered to be acceptable by others, I felt like I've kind of reached a new frontier.
I do love to bake. I know my lane. Like, I know what I can do and what I can do really well. And I have a really good chocolate chip recipe from a friend of mine. And I mean, it is
nice.
Bang up. Like, it's great chocolate chip cookie recipe. And I can cook a really good pound cake.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I know, I know that I can do those two things. And I'll do cupcakes and that kind of stuff. I mean, we did Rice Krispie treats last week, me and my daughter. So,
nice.
Like, those are kind of easy things. Like, when it comes to complicated baking, though, I've never done bread before, other than pulling frozen bread out and sticking it in the oven.
Well, I wanted to do it because it had been intimidating for so long.
Sure.
And like, of course, there was a mess. It took quite a long time to clean up everything, flour everywhere. But still, though, very pleased with having conquered that, and the idea that you would prepare something that someone else can then enjoy and consume. I kept one for myself and gave another one to one of our parishioners, right. And they're like, "Oh, he bakes bread too." Renaissance man.
Absolutely.
And so it's fantastic. So how long you been married?
25 years this year.
And how many kids?
So and this is just kind of a part of our story. We have four kids.
Okay.
My oldest daughter was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 2008.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she passed away in 2010.
Oh, man.
So she will forever be four. Like,
right.
We have a foundation that kind of, helps with families with children with childhood cancer that are in the area. Yeah. And so, it was kind of an honor to be her dad and just love her and who she was in our life for the very short period of time that she was here.
Yeah.
But we also have an 18-year-old who's about to turn 19 next month.
Okay.
I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. I've been saying 10. He just turned 11. So, yeah.
Right.
So we have 4 kids.
And they're right in that spot where they might be attracted to comics. You're like, I'm not going to duplicate
so
that.
They have come and listened to my sets at Mural City.
Okay.
And they were at the Opera House, so they got to hear that set as well. And it's I don't know. Like, I've asked them, I'm like, what do you think about me doing stand up? And my daughter's like, I love comedy. And I was like, well, who's your favorite comic? She's like, I don't know. I just like listening to people and they make me laugh. And so, and I get some feedback from my 18-year-old. Like, he'll be like, what is that?
Right.
So,
well, clean sets are in some ways require more discipline, because comedy's supposed to push the envelope of what we're comfortable talking about.
Sure.
It's supposed to kind of find the boundaries of what's acceptable discourse.
It is.
Because you're going to take the thing that no one else really wants to discuss, and you're going to put it right there on display and say, here's the thing you're all thinking, but no one says out loud.
That's right.
And as a result, pushing those edges means that it's different. Clean comedy is quite a discipline. And in some cases, I remember back in the 80s and 90s, there were some attempts at, some Christian comedians would come out and you go, I just don't know. The material is all that original. We can't quote Bill Cosby anymore just because of what.
Obvious. Sure.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And Norm Macdonald said it well. He's like, gee, if the lesson you got out of Bill Cosby is that he's no longer quotable, your priorities might be a little off.
Norm Macdonald is wise beyond his years.
Right.
Like, absolutely. I mean, that was definitely one gone too soon, but so, and I don't, it's almost easy to do like a dirty set.
Yeah, right.
If that would, like to be able to pull or get laughs, you do have to be more strategic in a clean set or running in that aspect. I know you're supposed to avoid probably politics and religion. Religion has really been a huge part of my life.
There's a lot of absurdities there.
There is so many absurdities there. And even just talking to my dad, because I can remember, listen, the economy got so bad, like a couple of years ago, I tried to start doing cooking videos on TikTok. and my dad was like, I don't want you putting my business out on TikTok. And I was like, please understand, like, that I love you and I respect you.
Right.
But like, there's a lot of really, really funny things that happened in our life growing up that are, I don't know. Like I told the other night about the tapping the dude on the shoulder, you were asked to pray and he stands up and prays during the middle of service.
Yeah.
Like there's just, I don't know. I have a respect for it. I'm not a person that has like deconstructed and I'm trying to call Christians down. Everybody has their own path.
Right.
And so, especially with what we went through with our daughter and just dealing with grief.
Right.
And dealing with just life that comes at you and not saying you have no control whatsoever, but it's really up to, what's the will of God.
Right.
And being able to accept and move through that, comedy helped me a lot.
Yeah.
After that, just to be able to find somewhere where life's not so serious. You know? And finding a place of being okay with laughing again, if that makes sense.
Well, I know. A good example of that, I think, is I spend a lot of time around firefighters and police officers, first responders of all types, and they have to develop that dark humor, and because they're within their context. Now, they'll be the first one to say, this can't leave the station because this is how we joke about this here.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, as they're talking about these things, I step into that arena and I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, that was your joke. And they're like, that's how they coped with that. That was how, like, I call it cracking open the pressure relief valve.
Sure.
Basically, to get some of that out. Otherwise, it's all festers.
That's right.
And I think that in like manner that's therapeutic there. I think it also is in other places too.
It is.
And so, especially in politics and religion.
For sure.
Because those are the areas where if they get taken too seriously and people lose their, so COVID, people were losing a sense of smell there. You've seen people lose a sense of sight. People can lose their sense of humor.
Correct.
And so when someone loses their sense of humor about a thing, I think it makes that thing more volatile.
That's right. And it doesn't help either that we almost live in a society now that offended people are always going to find offense in something.
Right.
It doesn't matter like what it is. I'm sure you and I, there are parts of understanding of what we believe God to be that are totally different. And I'm completely okay with that. Like it's not a I'm the police telling you that you are wrong for this. And we live in a society that I think there are certain offended people that feel like they have to release that upon, and sometimes it's an innocent victim of this person gets canceled for XYZ reason. And sometimes it's like a loaded effort of let's all get together and rain on this person's parade,
I call that the process of power shaming.
Sure.
Power shaming is someone who has to shame, in the process of shaming you, gains them some sort of power.
Right.
Because they just don't get it from anywhere else in life. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen that both on an individual and on a group level, where someone says, I remember specifically years ago, I was working at a company and I said, it was an auto insurance claims office. And if you do not find humor there, you have no sense of humor, because I worked for the claims office where there was actually a news story that came out at the time about a woman in Dallas who had, hit a homeless guy. He was lodged in her windshield and she just went home, parked the car, went inside and made dinner. And that's kind of an interesting conversation that you think that you would want to have.
I think you'd at least call 911 on
maybe,
the way home.
but
hey, you may need to come check on this guy.
She claimed to be in shock later, but but we were in that office, so we'd all kind of read that policy going, what was going through that? If the guy didn't die, because he didn't die on impact, right?
Sure.
So what was going through his mind as she was taxiing him home? He was probably wondering, what's she making for dinner? And so. And so,
wow, I've heard a lot of stories.
That's right. And so the point is but I was working there, and specifically someone, we were just kind of joking about some of these things. And I said to the, at the time, oh, don't go there. That's, bad mojo. That's bad mojo right there. Well, the lady across the table with me, she says she wanted to make that something racial, that somehow using the term mojo was somehow a racial term. And I called her out on it. She's like, oh, that's racist. I said, no, it's not. You're making that up. She says, she couldn't believe that I had said that. I said, just because you look different than me doesn't mean you get to make up new things that are supposedly racist. It's not. And the reason why I know this is because I came from Seattle. It's one of the wokest cities in the U.S. and the Seattle Mariners play in a stadium that is south of downtown. And so they had a big banner that said the SoDo Mojo. So if there's anything remotely racist about that, they would have pointed out, you're making it up and stop it right now.
For sure.
And she's just kind of like, oh, I can't believe someone called me out on that.
Yeah.
But like, no, you're trying to create power by creating shame out of nowhere.
Sure. I was born in 1976. I'll be 50 next month.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a very rural part of Alabama in the 80s and 90s. I've seen a lot of racism firsthand with my own eyes. When I got married, me and my wife moved to Maryland, and living outside of the South, I guess I didn't realize how racist I was. Does that make sense? I mean, that's just being completely honest.
Right.
And then moving back, realizing how, I don't want to say oppressed the South is, but it's just, it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe.
Okay.
And it's, is it better than it used to be? No, absolutely it is. But it's still, I don't know. I have tried to teach my kids to respect people for who they are.
Right.
The content of their character, not necessarily the color of their skin. And so it's been an interesting journey.
I'm reluctant to ever say that someone is racist as a state. It's like a binary category. You are racist or you're not.
No, right. I get what you're saying, but there are pockets of the country that it is.
Shane Gillis has a really good bit on this because he says, I think racism more like being hungry. Like, you may be fine right now because you just ate. But a couple hours from now when nothing's going on and a cheeseburger cuts you off in traffic.
True.
Suddenly now that can kind of well up inside.
I almost like to think that I'm not completely woke, but I'm not fully asleep either.
Right.
I try to be right in the middle. I don't even like to say that I'm Republican or Democrat. If I'm anything, I'm libertarian.
Right.
Like, not the tinfoil hat or
right.
But I'm hopefully
more libertarian.
Right, more libertarian.
Not necessarily cutting down SWAT cameras, but still leaning libertarian.
That's correct.
Right. No, I get you. I mean, I grew up in the West Coast.
Sure.
And I always say I grew up in the People's Republic of California, and so, but then. But the Mecca woke, of course, is the Northwest in many ways. So I lived up in Seattle for a time, and then I moved to Texas, and Texas was the first time that anyone really educated me on the War of Northern Aggression.
Yes,
right. And these are all ways in which I had never heard this because these are just not how West Coast textbooks are written.
Sure.
And so spent time in Dallas, spent time in Houston. And then I got to be honest, I mean, this is my ignorance. I come from a land where they really only care about two colors. One, our local Indians, are their rights being protected to have their own casino. And our heritage is not black or white, it's gold.
Sure.
You know, we invented Levi's jeans, by the way. So just saying, Sutter's Mill is our, that's our promised land. And so the thing is that we just don't care in many ways, just don't. And so I come down, especially in Southern Texas, where people were kind of concerned about, inner city dynamics, culture, race, whatever. And my, West Coast mentality was, what is your problem? Mm-hmm. Because I was stepping into an arena that I just didn't, and I had to maintain some of my resolve about that, because I was among people, spent time around people in religious settings who really wanted me to think about white, black, this or that, whatever. They really wanted me to think about that. And I had to basically stand my ground and go, no, I determined to know nothing about a man that he does not reveal to me in word and deed.
For sure.
And in many ways, I had to kind of stand up to other people in religious settings.
Yeah.
In that, in that resolve, it wasn't easy.
I think there are avenues that will almost use religion as a protection against that, and try to shoot it one way or the other. And I don't know. I don't see Jesus being that way.
I know.
That's just the way my Bible reads.
I know. So. Yeah, right. Because he doesn't look like any of us.
No.
No. But that's the thing is, I mean, even in that, I think comedy is an undervalued necessity for keeping those absurdities front of mind. Too.
Oh, it is. It is. I think there's a lot of social commentary that can come from comedy, that are not untapped, but I think it can bridge a lot of gaps in communities or in society. And so
I told at the open mic night, I told the story about my friend Tom, real people, by the way, and Levi, real guy. Sure. And I think and people thought I was giving a bit. I was telling the story accurately, but with regard to Tom and Levi. But Tom was a guy who had grown up on the streets before eventually he came to know Christ. But we would go into some certain settings, like to give a Bible study at a halfway house or amongst different gangs and talk to different people. And he'd say, Aaron, just for starters, you need to understand, you are so white. Like, what do you mean by that? I was like, I'm looking at myself. I'm like, I got a tan. He goes, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Just so you know, be a little self-aware. You're the whitest person that these people will probably interact with. And I'm not talking about your appearance at all. I'm like, okay, I get you. Because comedy can be a little bit more difficult for someone who's had a family that was disgustingly normal. I mean, there's just... I'd love to be able to kind of point to my family I grew up with and go, boy, that's how I'm damaged. Yep. But I don't. Sure. I mean, it's like there's nothing that I can point to where God would go, oh, yeah, you had it tough. Like, no, he's like, no, this is all your fault, buddy. Everything that you confess is all you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's tough. It's not always easy to find something from from the family, but other parts of life are kind of going to give you the material there.
Oh, it is. I mean, even growing up, we lived in the Pastorium right next to the small Baptist church.
Right.
Lived in. And a lot of smaller Baptist churches and communities, they would have living homes that, the pastor could move in and so we lived there. When I was 16, I was running late for a test and I had a Jeep at the time and it was a 3-speed and we lived on a dirt road. And so I was upset and I put it in reverse and I hit first gear and then second gear. And when I went to put it into third, they had graded the road.
Oh, man.
And so it was some loose dirt. And so the Jeep has no wheelbase whatsoever and starts to fishtail. I took my foot off the gas and went to hit the brake like hard. And my foot slipped off the brake and right back on the gas.
Oh, man.
And I tore down about 75 foot of the cemetery fence in front of my dad's church.
Just the fence, though.
Just the fence.
Yeah,
I did not hit. It was very far away from
that poltergeist is coming. If you would disturb
any graves, my dad had the fence company out there that afternoon.
Oh, man.
It was fixed like very quickly. Right. It did get blamed on the community, like that took a little too much to drink.
Oh.
Everybody thought it was that person. So I had to pay for the fence on the back end. I had a job on the weekends. And so it took me a couple of months to pay that off. But I mean, there's things like that happened like in and around my family. My dad had a really good friend of his that was a pastor, and he came to preach one Sunday night, and he loved firearms. Like he loved guns. And so me and my sister were standing right there at his truck, and, Wilton pulls a pistol out that was it was a Tech 9 was what it was, like back in the 80s, like a drug dealer gun. It was 9mm long, and he was showing it to my dad, and my dad goes, well, that thing ain't loaded, is it? And he was like, no, it's not loaded. Pulls the trigger, shoots right through the side of his truck. I mean, nobody was in danger. Luckily, but we were standing like within 3 foot. And the first thing he said was, please don't tell your mama that I shot this gun right in front of you. And as soon as my mom pulled back up in the driveway, me and my sister both were like, Mr. Wilt shot the side of his truck. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like there's lots of stories of things that just absurd, like funny. Yeah.
Right.
That's how I was raised.
No, I growing up in church as well. I mean, and nodding at specific those moments where you're agreeing with everything the preacher's saying. Agreeing with everything the preacher said.
Absolutely.
But the problem is that when you start nodding backward,
no,
and that's when the spirits get you.
Right.
You're all eat up with the Holy Ghost. Going, oh my gosh! And I remember specifically at one point, my head flacked so much backwards. I saw the people behind me. My eyes come out. I saw them behind me, and I'm like, whoa. And my mother's sitting there next to me, and she's laughing too hard to focus on the rest of the service because of how ridiculous it is. How I look back, I said, I saw the people behind me. She lost it. Of course, my father is not pleased with the fact that the entire family can't keep it together. Guys, this is a solemn moment here. We're like, we know. Sorry about that. But it was, those kind of things we could laugh about. And that actually, I think, kind of kept me. It was a contributor to me kind of never losing my religion.
For sure.
It's like, it wasn't the thing that I was it wasn't the thing I was trying to escape as soon as I turned 18.
Oh, absolutely.
And because my parents would play Ray Stevens, the squirrel went berserk in the First Self-Righteous Church. And they were like, yep, that's us.
My first concert I ever went to, Ray Stevens opened.
He's a genius.
So no, he absolutely is. Love all his stuff. So I get it.
It's great.
Get it.
Well, so, and you're working on your bits right now. Any more thing? Nothing else on the schedule? Yeah.
Trying to, I'm trying to write a little bit every day, and then just.
That's a great set you had opening for Jordan, though.
Oh, thank you.
It was fantastic.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was an ordeal kind of itself. Like how because Jordan was like, you have 13 minutes, and I was like, okay, so
it's a long time.
It is a long time, and so, but. It all worked out because I had about 10 minutes and then you always know like it's going to stretch for laughs or for pauses or for losing where you're at on your note. Like all of those things, kind of happen and those nervous ticks. And
do they give you a clock in front just to kind of track your time?
So Jake, and I'm sure you've met Jake, Jordan's husband. And so he was kind of backstage, like running everything.
Okay.
And he was keeping everything smooth. He was like, there's a clock right down front. And I'm like, great. That'll kind of keep me on track, but I should be good. Like I knew I only had 10 minutes and it was very doubtful I was going to get 3 full minutes of laughter. So I knew that I was going to be in time, but I walked out on the stage and looked down at it, and it was a temperature gauge. Like it was showing 72, and I'm like, do I have 72 seconds? Is this 72 minutes? Like what is this? But like, you had adrenaline flowing,
right.
And so Jordan had introduced me, and I walked out on stage, and like my picture was up there, and I was like, it hit me. There's adrenaline was going, and I was like, this is really happening. Like, there's no turning back now. Right. And I know Jake is our music director at church too, and I play keys, and so I listen to Jake all the time. So before I went out, Jake was like, "You've got to turn the microphone on." Set your iPad down on the stool, like get that set, and then take the mic stand and set it right behind you. And I was constantly going in my head, turn the mic on, set my iPad down, set the mic stand behind
Right.
me. And so I get up, I grab the microphone, I turn it on. I set my iPad down and I'm like, I'm halfway there. And so I grab the mic stand. And when I turn around, all I saw was a huge Google search that said, how big can hemorrhoids get? and like I almost froze. But the only thing,
Jordan.
the only thing that could run through my mind was my best friend has paid the event manager off to put crazy stuff behind me because as comedians, you don't sit around and go, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. I had no idea that was for Jordan's set, and it just happened to flip at the wrong time. But yeah, no, the set went really well. I was very honored to do it. And I've known Jordan for 15 years. And so being able to see her grow up from a teenager to, going to college. And I actually worked with Jordan at Chick-fil-A in the mall.
Yeah.
I was the GM there for, a couple of years. And so, but seeing her graduate college, get married, become a mom, it's been a really, really cool process.
That's awesome to watch.
What God's doing in her life.
Yeah,
so,
that's great. Yeah. And she was able to draw on a lot of the material. She was like, whatever news article you read about Florida Man, yeah, I'm probably related to that
for
guy.
sure.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
know. Yeah, I think that a lot of that will, because if I think about if I ever am up in front of the mic again, I have a lot of stuff that can come out of.
Oh, it's
because I went to a small Bible college, which I think had about 60 people at its zenith, and we call it a cobbler shop because you go there to get your soul worked on, but leave in pairs, and so.
I feel that.
Right?
I feel that so much.
That's because Darlene asked me that. She's like, "So what is Bible college?" I said, "It is very sophisticated Christian dating app, because all the girls that are there for early childhood education, the child they typically expect to educate first are the one they make with the most eligible bachelor in the preaching class,
Absolutely.
who's the rock star in preaching class."
I'm working on a bit right now about. I talked about minor spiritual crime sitting on the back row. Like my first, I think, major spiritual crime was when I was in Bible college and we couldn't go watch rated R movies, but The Matrix came out. And I'm a huge science fiction. I have been a sci-fi fan since small. Star Wars, Star Trek, kind of the whole 9 yards. And so it was 1999 and The Matrix was coming out. And I lied to my roommate. And told him that I was working late. I went to the theater across town at the latest possible viewing of it, and it was like 9:30 at night. I think there was 3 people in the theater, and I was like, "This is the best movie."
I know, right? Oh my gosh,
so fantastic! Well, and there's a lot,
what we can find. I mean, that entire spate of post-apocalyptic movies that came out in the 80s and 90s, starting with Escape from New York.
Absolutely.
And all those in Terminator. We can all thank them. We can all thank Hal Lindsey.
Most definitely.
Great man on earth. And Clay Dempsey and I were reminiscing. Reminiscing isn't a good word because because the psychologists like to use the term triggered.
Sure.
We were both triggered as we remembered A Thief in the Night, and this the Rapture scare that was swept through all of our youth groups
for sure.
And it was all a good horror flick that you basically had them scared to death.
Do you remember the book that came out, 88 Reasons That Jesus is Coming Back in 1988?
Oh gosh, it's fantastic.
I can remember as a child opening up the mailbox and it being in there. And I remember just flipping through it and it was like, Jesus is coming back around Rosh Hashanah. Like,
right.
Like September the 12th. And I was like, dang, my birthday's the 17th. Like, I'm not even gonna,
Right.
As a kid, because my dad, it was the 80s, very kind of into that whole Jesus is coming back tomorrow type thing. Right. And so it was frightening as a child. I remember waking up and being like, I've been left behind. And then I would get out of my bed and I would combat crawl down the hall. And I would get up next to my parents' door. And if I could hear my dad snoring, I'd be like, I have made it another night. And I'd go get back in the bed.
Well, if you can't hear him snoring, that means the guillotine's right outside the door.
So true.
And you're going to be marched up there and get to take the mark of the beast.
And it's not... I don't take away from that type teaching or the end times and that. I just don't put a lot of weight into it.
Well, but it's got to produce a lot of good material because we were scared to death, and there was a lot of fun little, we produced some pretty good cults out of that era.
I remember having conversations with people in Bible college that are like, I'm just so sad I'll never be able to have kids because I was in Bible college from like 98 to 2000. And so like there were people that were taking their kids out of school before Y2K because it was all going to be over.
Oh, I know.
And so, yeah. And here we are. I don't know. I remember having thoughts of, will I ever get married? Will I ever be able to have a wife or kids? Right. And I don't know. Here I am. I'll turn 50 next month. I've got a beautiful family, a beautiful wife, and I get to, I don't know. It's just, life is fun sometimes when you make it that way. So.
I know, right. Well, and we're especially with our background and in the arenas we've been in, there's a lot of fun things to point out. It
is.
And
it is. And silly stuff.
It just
like silly stuff looking back.
Right.
But.
Well, I think that not taking oneself too seriously is a divine requirement.
For sure.
I just think that I just don't see a scenario where God says, don't laugh at yourself because you're always on top of your game. No, you're actually rather ridiculous a lot of the time.
More often than not. And I think a lot of us overlook that even the best that we can give, like the most that we can try, like our righteousness is like filthy rags.
Oh yeah, I know. We don't get into that. This is a clean set. Do not get into that right now.
No, but I'm just saying, even in salvation, it is much less about us,
right?
And way more about giving God space to let Him do what He wants to do.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And then that's why I always say, I've got this reoccurring nightmare of getting to heaven and there's Jesus sitting there going, glad you're here. Great. However, I was just listening to your tape the other day and I'm wondering where you got that. And it's just not a conversation I want to have.
Sure.
Or having the conversation where he's like, you're here. My blood covers all that. My sacrifice covers all your sins. But I'd like to review a couple of times and you really were full of yourself.
Yeah.
I think those are funny and we need to review those right now. Like, he's like, you remember this time when you thought you were just the stuff? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go there again, please. Yeah. He's like, yeah, but we were laughing all up here, man.
No,
it was good stuff.
I get it. I get it.
Right.
I'm hoping those are the conversations that we get to have, in eternity. So.
I know, right, exactly. So thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you.
I love this. I felt like I felt an obligation to make sure. I just came from this last summer. We had our. Well, that's fun.
It is. Yeah, it's coming down.
Yeah, good storm is outside. But this last summer we had our annual conventions. We call it a synod.
Okay.
Where basically all the clergy and bishops and everything get together to kind of conduct their business. Say, hey, what's going on in our vast network? And you'd think that that'd be kind of like a stuffy scenario. And it really is ripe for the taking if Christopher Guest ever wanted to make a mockumentary of, this is Spinal Tap sort of scenario of everyone coming together for synod. I've got some ideas right now that I'd like to shop for that because I think it's got a lot of material there. But I think one of the reasons why it might fall flat is because I was able to spend time around some mentors, particularly our bishop, who's like, people are unfamiliar with our structure. Like a bishop is like the regional Walmart manager.
Okay.
And so he's like, okay, the regional manager who's basically, helping to make sure you're all well supported and offer that leadership and that experience. And in our structure, has some authority to it, but really we all just want to gather around them for their wisdom and their guidance. So that every pastor has a pastor.
Okay.
That's our network. Point is that the bishop that we all look up to has a great sense of humor. And I could go by, after all the day's activities and the conducting the business, I can go down to whatever hotel room was designated for as the gathering spot. I could hear his laughter from down the hall because just about anything would come up, he'd say, with something where he'd say, keep doing that, that's hilarious. And so I think that we need that more. And that's kind of the example I have is like, no. This only works if we're not taking ourselves too seriously.
For sure.
because, oh my gosh, how many episodes throughout the Gospels is Jesus constantly looking at the Pharisees going, you are so full of it.
You have no idea. Yeah. Yeah. A little off base there.
Exactly.
Just
right.
a little bit, but yeah.
No, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Really appreciate it. This is fun.
No, absolutely.
I like it.